Do you ever sit back and wonder, where can I listen to the Energy is Love podcast? And the wonderful, beautiful thing is you can listen anywhere. If you have a smartphone, it's the easiest way to stream, download, subscribe, and listen to any podcast. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube. Got any podcasting app that is out there. All you got to do is search the Energy is Love podcast and it'll pop up. So then you can download, you can subscribe, you can share it. Please share the podcast. Never heard anybody to share things, right? And then you can also listen directly from our website. If you go to energyislovepodcast.com, all the information is there. All the links are there and you can do it. So do it. On the website, you can also click on the tab up top that says coaching. If you're interested in working one-on-one with me, please reach out. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to chat about what I do. Really, at the end of the day, my goal is to help men in opening up, expanding, connecting more to themselves, to their feelings, to their emotions, really to their life. So many times life seems to just kind of run on autopilot and we survive as opposed to really living. So that's what I do. And I'd love to chat with you. Like I said, go to the website, click on that tab. You can also just contact me directly. Shoot me an email. It's Craig@energyislovepodcast.com if you're interested and you want to find out more. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Refinery Barbershop. The Refinery Barbershop, located in Springville, Utah, has been a longtime sponsor and support of the podcast. When I get my beard trimmed, that's where I go. One day down the road when I decide to cut back this fro that typically adorns the top of my head, I'm definitely going to go down and see Steven at the Refinery Barbershop. Go to their website. It's refinerybarbershop.com. Go follow them on Facebook. If you are interested in getting one of those really old school, classic, good haircuts, beard trim, straight razor shave, the whole 9 yards, this is going to be the place for you to go check it out. Like I said, go show them some love on Facebook. Go follow them on Instagram. Go to our website if you want so that you can connect to theirs. All that information is there under sponsors on our website. But go check them out. The Refinery Barbershop. On today's episode, the guest is Brad Young. Brad and I used to work together back in the day when I was a police officer. I've known Brad for quite a while. He's been in law enforcement for 15 years, I think he said. Something like that. It's a long time. He's also in the military, so he has served in the National Guard for close to 20 years, I believe, if I remember correctly. You'll have to listen to find out. But it's a fun episode. Brad and I chat about a lot of different stuff, a little bit about his experience in the military as well as in law enforcement. Then we kind of change it up a little bit and get into a little bit of we get into a discussion regarding drugs and the pros and cons of legalization and all those kind of different things. I come from this standpoint of legalize all of it. I don't care what it is. It should be legal. We should be able to use and do whatever we want to do because we're adults, right? And Brad's got a little bit different of a perspective. But we recorded this a few weeks ago. We recorded this last week, maybe week before. I don't remember. But at the time, it was Police Appreciation Week. And it's also Military Appreciation Month, apparently. And the episode is coming out today on Memorial Day. So it's a wonderful reminder, even though it's a fun, lighthearted episode, and we do get into some good stuff, but it's a wonderful reminder that the men and women that are out there, whether they're police officers, whether they're in the military, at the end of the day, they're just regular people doing the best that they can to do a job that at times is beyond impossible to do. So I'd like to thank Brad for coming on the podcast. And I'd like to thank all the men and women in law enforcement and in the military. But for now, you guys get to sit back and relax and enjoy a wonderful episode of the Podcast for the Universe with my guest, Brad Young. Here we go.
You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is the Love podcast.
The Energy is Love podcast.
Energy is love.
The Energy is Love podcast.
The Podcast for the Universe.
The Energy is Love podcast. Let's see where it goes.
Sweet. Well, this is it.
All righty.
We started. So, first and foremost, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
I'm excited. I'm gonna fuck with your mic one more time.
Again? Oh my gosh.
I know I'm so anal when it comes to
That's
the
all right. That's all right.
to the audio of it.
It's all in the details, man. It's
Yeah.
all in the details.
Have you listened to any of the recent episodes? Like just this week or last week? I've only got 2 that came out recently.
So I was listening to 99.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to the one with Jason Spencer and Brendan McCollum. So, and I started to listen to one of them with you and Steph having coffee, and I just didn't get all the way through that.
Yeah.
So
Some of them are long.
some of them are a little long.
I like it though. Like for me, my goal is to always get at least like about an hour's worth of content, a nice little episode interview kind of thing.
Right on.
But then if they end up going longer, I just let them go because you get into the flow of conversation. And
Yes, you do. Yes,
So-
you do.
well, what I've been doing lately, and it's only with the past, because we just had an episode come out last, what's today? Tuesday. So it just came out yesterday and then the week before that. But because we went on this like little hiatus, and it was just because I was so fucking busy. I didn't have a chance to record and do stuff.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Life gets busy. That's weird.
But what I'm doing from this point on, at the beginning of every episode, I ask everybody the same question.
What's that?
So you get the same question everybody does.
All right.
And it's, what form of mental illness do you suffer from?
Oh gosh. Which one? Let's see. Sometimes I get anxiety about anxiety. That's a fun one. Especially with a kid on the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's another life I get to mess up.
Yeah, that ramps it up a little bit, huh?
Wow, yeah. And between my wife and I, this will be our 6th. So
That's a lot of kids, man.
I mean, that can either be 6 contributing members of society, or that can be 6 burdens to society. It really depends on what.
How old's your oldest?
My oldest is 20, and she's a great kid.
Yeah.
She's a great kid. I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to brag too much, but she's 20. She did cosmetology in high school, and so she graduated early from high school. When she was a freshman in high school, I remember her sitting down saying, okay, I'm going to take all these hard classes these first 2 years, because the last 2 years I just want to do, she wanted to have fun with high school. And I'm like, man, you did not get that from your old man, because I just wanted to have fun all through high school.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any of them, So she gets her cosmetology, and not to put a shameless plug in, but headquarters in Stansbury. I better not give any names. She'll get mad at me. She'll be like, Dad, what the heck? Alyssa Young. So yeah, she does a great job too. Every time she posts something on Facebook, she'll post pictures of someone's hair that she did or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'll get on there. Oh, she does a great job. She does my daughter's hair all the time, which she does. She does my 16-year-old's hair all the time. Like every other week, they're changing color or something. I don't know. But
Yeah. It's cool to watch them grow up, huh?
yes, it is.
My oldest just turned 19, and it's so, it's just fascinating to see them kind of completely come into their own, in a sense, become adults, well, they're not really adults, but
Yeah, she is.
well, they're faking it, I think, for the most part, like everybody else was at that age.
I'm really impressed with her. She's got her own place. Her and her friend got a basement apartment together. She doesn't do half the stupid stuff I did,
Well, that's the mark of a good parent.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
or-
like if your kids do better than you did.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I'm very proud of her. Right? We could sit here for an hour and I could sit here and talk about her. But she's a good kid, and I'm very proud of her.
Yeah.
Very proud of her. So
We'll go back to anxiety. So
Oh,
besides anxiety, what else you got?
let's see. I've been told this, and a lot of people seem to think I have PTSD, and I don't see it. If people just do what supposed to, then we wouldn't have any issues.
If everybody just shut up and listen.
Yeah, especially I'm still in the Guard, you know, and it's changed over the years a lot. Anyhow, and I don't know.
Like, it's shitty to talk about, right? That's the whole reason I ask people about it. So
yeah, it's like, I don't know. I tell my soldiers all the time, I used to never understand why every motor sergeant in the Army was some crusty old bastard. And now being the motor sergeant, I know why everyone is why every one of us is a crusty old bastard. I mean, you know, there's, anyhow.
Well, the whole purpose of me, because for me, I think that everybody has one form of mental illness or another. And I don't even like calling it mental illness. I think it's just this big, huge spectrum of mental balance that we all are on. And we all, you know, at times struggle in this space or that space. And we kind of slide back and forth along that spectrum.
Yeah, I have my ways of how I want things done, and it doesn't happen that way all the time. And especially like, I'll go back to the PTSD thing. There are some things like when I deploy, there's some things I'll talk about. There are funny stories, all that fun stuff. There's other things we avoid those all the time.
Yeah.
Just, you know, I've talked to people about them before, and it's just not stuff that I want to talk about. It's you know.
Yeah, it's the shitty stuff that nobody wants to not only talk about, but think about and feel and deal with. And
sometimes it's not even really shitty stuff. I mean, it's stuff that should have never happened or been, you know. I remember we were in Iraq. I hate meetings. There's nothing that happens in a meeting that can't happen in a well-organized email.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, those that are going to contribute to the meeting, they're going to respond to everybody in the email. Those that are going to sit there and be like, this is dumb, are not going to respond to the email, and then you're not wasting anybody else's time. So we're in this meeting, and we had meetings every other day. And Cecil Hawthorne, sorry, your meetings were great. So, anyhow, he's gonna be like, "Why did you throw my name out?" Anyhow, so we're in this meeting, and he says, "Hey, the command's really concerned because nobody's really going to combat stress to talk about things." And he kind of went on about going to combat stress and everything else. And I'm like, I raised my hand. Of course, I always have a smart ass comment for somebody, usually him. And I said, how about fob stress? Because in combat, I know what to do. I know what to expect there. It's when you get back on the fob, you don't know what to expect the next day. I mean,
we'll tell the listeners what FOB is. What does that stand for?
The base we were on, the forward operating base. Okay. So anyhow, every time you get back, I mean, they want to have a battalion fun run. Well, it was just on a 14-hour mission. Running is not going to be fun. Okay. Or meetings, or you have to go over to medical to get this done and that done, or somebody lost the list of every freaking weapon that's in the company, so everybody's got to take their weapons over, and just stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just I don't know.
Well, I think
that was the hard one to deal with.
I most definitely have PTSD. And I think that it's like anything else where it affects everybody differently and in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always just the stereotypical thing that we would think of, like the Vietnam vet that has flashbacks or something like that. I mean, that definitely is one way that it shows up and manifests. But
Oh, yeah.
for me, the way that it kind of, because it comes and goes. I'll go through periods of time where it's more prevalent and I kind of recognize and see it more. And then there's periods of time where I feel like, you know, it doesn't even affect me at all, but it's always really subtle, weird things.
Right.
And sometimes it's not even stuff that I think about, but I really have to take a step back and look and see what I was feeling at the time, or what that, you know, I mean, it's simple stuff like fucking driving anywhere. Like if I drive anywhere and I see a cop on a traffic stop, I just pay attention, where normally, do you know what I mean? I'm so far removed from police work at this point that like, I don't pay attention to shit. Yeah. I'm not looking out for anything. I'm not in that state of mind anymore that I used to be in, with the exception of if I see another officer, and if I see another officer, then I start paying attention, simply because
you're feeding off of them.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure, right? I mean, there may be that off chance that I'm driving past that traffic stop one day and he's going to need some help for something.
You never know.
Yeah. And that happens all the time. And then I'll find myself sometimes where, you know, we'll drive past an accident, or even just hearing about shit sometimes is enough. I don't have to be in the presence of it or drive past it or something like that. And then I'll notice my mood change in just subtle different ways. Yep. And that's gotten better over the years. Like when I very first got out of law enforcement, it was much more like prevalent and much more difficult in the, you know, the way that it kind of showed up and manifested was a little bit more profound.
Right.
But it's definitely eased off over the years, but it still comes and goes, man.
I don't even know if it's eased off. I mean, there's some of the there's some things up front that just, like when I first came back, those things have eased off. But, fireworks. Wow. I hate fireworks.
Does that get you? Does that trigger you?
You know, I'm sitting outside and it's like, okay, we're going to go outside and we're going to watch fireworks. I'm good. I know they're there. I can see them, everything else. I remember I'd been back for a couple of years. I was working the night shift on New Year's Eve. And I wasn't even in fireworks mode. You know, it was, I mean, it's New Year's Eve. I'm in, let's go get some drunks off the street mode. And I was driving up 1000 North, and all of a sudden, this loud boom off in the distance. And I remember at first I hit the brake, and then I hit the gas. And I'm already doing like 30, 35 on, which is the 35 zone, you know?
Yeah.
And I hit the gas and immediately went to the middle of the road. And I was getting out of the kill zone, you know?
Yeah.
And then I stopped and realized where I was. Luckily, there's nobody on the street because I was in the middle of the road doing like 60, 65. And I remember pulling over and flipping around. And I just got out of the car. And I just paced around the car for a few minutes. And I'm like, what the heck, man? It was a firework, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't an IED. We're good. So around that same time, it was middle of the day. I'm cruising into Salt Lake on 201. I was in my personal vehicle. And this truck comes and merges onto 201. We're about Magna area. And somebody had hit the back end of the truck and like the fender was popped out. And it was just different. It was weird. And he comes in and he's going to merge on. It was just a different vehicle that was getting on, and all of a sudden I hit the brakes and I changed lanes, and I'm like trying to get away from this truck because it's weird. It's different. It's not normal. I slowed down like 45. People are driving past me, flipping me off. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Sorry about that. You know, but
yeah, it's bizarre.
It's those little things, and it's still little things will still do it to me. Like potholes, I'll go I'm sitting there all the time, dodging potholes and manholes and everything. I don't know, just those little things, and I don't know if they'll ever go away, but hopefully it saves at least the shocks on my vehicles. So,
How long have you been in the Guard?
19 years. I have one more year till I can pull the plug.
Yeah.
And one more year. Can't wait.
And then how many times have you been over to Iraq?
Just once.
Just once?
Just the one. Yeah. People think you get in and like they're gonna ship you off to somewhere right away. And I was in from 93 to 99. That was my first initial. I got out for quite a few years. I got back in 2005. Got back in. And man, I had to volunteer to go on that one. It's like I get back, I'm like, okay, well, I volunteered to go. I'm not gonna volunteer the next time. Well, if you get deployed, great.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. There was one time I was in aviation, and they were looking for an E5 as an E5 at the time. They're looking for him to go to Afghanistan. I'm like, all right, I'll hit both campaigns, whatever, And there was three of us, 3 sergeants, and I thought I have a pretty good shot at going. I go home, talk to my wife at the time, and she's like, "Yeah, no volunteering." Okay, all right. So next time in drill, they're like, "So did you give it some thought?" I'm like, "Well, I can't volunteer, but it would really be a great opportunity. It would do amazing things for my retirement, and I'd love the opportunity to go with my guys, and I think I have a lot to offer them and everything else." And I'm like, "But I can't volunteer," as I'm nodding my head. And then one of the other guys, he lost his job, and he had a kid to feed and a wife and everything else, and well, we're gonna take him. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I think he wanted. I think in a sense he wanted to go. He'd. I think he had some things from some other deployments too, and he was just like, "Screw this civilian world shit. Just let me go."
Yeah.
So it worked out, and yeah, can't pick up a deployment unless you volunteer. I don't know what the heck. I don't know what the heck's going on.
So I realized this week too, and obviously I didn't plan it. I didn't think about it because this, we connected, and this is a great opportunity to be on the podcast and everything. But it's Police Week. It's like Police Appreciation Week.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, that's good fucking timing then.
That is.
Yeah.
It's also Military Appreciation Month.
Is it?
I think Nurses Week was last week too. So
there's something every week.
Mother's Day was just here.
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
And neither one of us are mothers.
No, but there's that whole Mother's Day / Single Father's Day. So
yeah,
I don't know why they just don't call that Father's Day, but somewhere along, it's like Father's Day is turned into Father's Day and Single Mother's Day. So I figure it works both ways.
Yeah,
equal rights and all that. So,
but how long have you been in law enforcement?
Oh boy, so I'm working on my 15th year.
15.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah, I was out for a minute.
Yeah.
I was out for a minute, which is probably a good thing.
So I want to know what you think is the biggest misconception of police work. So if we look at just the regular average Joe citizen out there, what do they not understand, or like just the biggest misconception essentially that you see?
Cops aren't out to get anybody. They're not there to, I don't know, people don't understand how much paperwork is involved with everything, and how many people are going to be looking at things that have happened and everything else. We're not out to get anybody. We just want society to be happy and enjoy life, and not steal other people's shit, and leave people the hell alone. Keep your hands to yourself. How many times your parents tell you that? Keep your hands to yourself. Don't take other people's shit. Seems pretty straightforward to me. I mean, so, when little Johnny's over there rummaging through people's cars, yeah, somebody's not going to keep their hands to themselves. If you're out at 2:00 in the morning in all black with a backpack and no reflectors on your bike, there's probably a good chance that you're, not leaving other people's shit alone. So yeah, cops are going to talk to you. Not out to get anybody, just out to keep the peace. And people don't realize that.
Yeah, I think that people definitely think that, I mean, it's like anything else where we tend to focus on the negative side of things rather than the positive side. And obviously there's a huge portion of society that, appreciates police officers and all that they do and all that kind of stuff. But we tend to think about, the people that think all cops are assholes and that, that law enforcement is such a negative thing. And I think you're right. I don't think that, like if we took a poll, 95% of the police officers across the country, or 100, like if we took a poll, 95% of them are going to be straight up good guys that are simply just trying to do their job, trying to do right, trying to help people. Yeah. Like you said, not out to get anybody. And then of course you're going to have, the outliers in there that are assholes and shouldn't be police officers. But
well, that's with any profession. I mean, you see all the memes about the guy from, was it Office Space, the boss holding the coffee. Yeah, if you could work the rest of your life until you freaking die, that'd be great. There's people in every profession. There's no one that's immune to it. The problem is, and I tell people this all the time, I've been going to school for a long time. Hopefully I have my master's here pretty soon. I have 3 classes left. Man. Anyhow, and it seems like in every class there's always that discussion about that, and I don't even know where I was going with this now. Crap.
Discussion about like cops being an asshole or out to get people, or that cops are bad in general, or.
Yeah, I lost it. I got talking about myself, and that's it. But
what about for you? Like, what's the biggest back in the day when you started? What's the biggest misconception that you had about it, where you didn't realize, oh shit, this is more, the reality of what it's really like?
Cops have to do. Oh, that's where I was going with it. Let me get back to that that one point. So police are the face of government. We are the face of it all. I mean, when was the last time you saw your senator walking through the grocery store? If you want to get a hold of your senator, you want to get a hold of your representative, you want to get a hold of the president. You want to get a hold of...
Well, you just got to tweet the president, but...
True. But I'll tell you right now, he's not gonna, fly down here in Air Force One to sit down and have a chat with you. I mean, he might send the Secret Service, depending on the message you send, but, when was the last time you were really able to talk to the mayor or talk to city council or anything like that? If it's a public forum, yeah, you can raise your hand and everything else. But police are the face of the government. When people think of the government, we are the easiest, most accessible. So yeah, they're going to take out their frustrations, and we don't show up because everything's hunky-dory. I can't remember the last time I was ever invited to Sunday dinner because everything was good. I'd been invited to Sunday dinner because, the brother threw the turkey at his other brother, and mom got upset, and dad beat the heck out of everybody, and
People aren't calling for you to come over and like, hey, we just want to let you know everything's okay.
Right.
We're doing really well. Family's happy, and I love my neighbors.
Right. I mean, they're upset. These are intense, emotional times when we show up, and we're the face of government. And I don't know about you, but a lot of people I know aren't necessarily happy with all of government. So, yeah, we get the brunt of it because we're the face of government.
Yeah.
I
think it's an easy focal point for people. So anybody in general, you know, like people that not just with the government, but maybe they hate fucking society, or they hate the raw deal that they've gotten in life, or they think that they have.
And we represent all of that.
Yeah.
All of that is tied up into us. I mean, you could put a big bubbly rainbow that's like on my shirt, bright, happy colors on the side of police cars with, 15 different colors of the rainbow and instead of a siren, play some happy music to get them to pull over, and they'll still be upset because that's what we represent. I mean, we could show up in bright blue leisure suits with, a clown nose on or whatever, and people are still going to be upset because that's just the nature of everything we deal with.
Yeah.
We show up when people are not at their best.
So what was your biggest misconception of for you personally getting into it?
We deal with everything. We're social workers. We are litter control for the roadways. We are, people call police to pick up dead animals. I'm like, I don't remember there being a part of my patrol car that I can put dead animals in. I mean, they call us for everything. And we're, to a point, expected to help with everything. And a lot of those things we are not prepared for. I'm not a psychologist.
Well, so many of the things, like, I think, because that's the same thing for me, right? I think initially you think you're going to get in, then you're going to not just do good and help people and fight crime and do all these fun things that you kind of aspire to do as a police officer. But that's maybe 40% of the job, 50 even, if we're like really pushing it.
I don't even know that you could go that high.
Yeah.
I mean, we're supposed to have the answers to everything. I mean, people call, and this is just a general thing, my boyfriend took my kid and I don't know where they went and he's not answering his phone. Okay, well, so is boyfriend the father of the kid? Well, yeah, but he hasn't paid a dime. And let's back up here. Is he on the birth certificate? Well, yeah. Do you have any custody in place? I mean, has the judge said you have custody of the child or anything like that? Well, no. Well, I don't. He has rights to the kid too. I mean,
Yeah, the whole civil thing. Like, I didn't even really know what the hell a civil problem was until I became a police officer. And that like blew my mind how often things boil down to just that, where we have no role to play as a cop. Yeah. We don't have the ability to decide one way or the other. At the end of the day, it's a fucking civil problem between two parties.
It is. It's a civil problem, and we don't have any authority. It's not that we don't want to help. It's not that we don't want to, it's not that we don't want to help resolve the situation, but I can't say, hey, you give kid to her, because he has rights too.
Yeah.
And, who am I to say who a kid gets? I mean, that's for a judge to say. If the judge says, hey, here's a writ, remove that child and give it to the other one, okay, that's what we're there for. But yeah, and that translates from where we're at as police officers to, the post on Facebook from mom and everything that her friend says. Oh, the cops don't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that the cops don't do anything. There's this little...
Yeah, my boyfriend kidnapped my kid and the cops won't do anything about it.
No. The kid's dad has the child and is doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now if it's illegal, then yeah, we have issues. But you know, taking your child to Lagoon for the weekend, or going to see, you know, family and visiting for a week, is not kidnapping your kid. That's, you know,
Yeah, I hate
being
that
a parent.
civil shit.
Um,
That stuff used to drive me nuts because there's no solution and nobody wants to hear what you're going to tell them.
no, they don't, and that just translates into the cops don't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not that the cops don't do anything; it's that
Like literally no authority to do anything.
yeah, it's like, I mean, heck, you might as well, you know, call a firefighter to I don't know, replace the transmission in your car, because there's two different things going on here. You know? So, and I don't want to have a jaded, I don't want to sound like I'm jaded towards that, but, and again, as a cop, you have to sell and try to help them understand that you don't have that authority. You can't do that. You know, at that point, people just shut down, and you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't say anything to make them happy at that point.
And not at all.
No.
Not at all.
I want to ask you.
Oh, go ahead.
Why the fuck did you get back into it?
Well, I got out. I had almost 13 years in.
Mm-hmm.
So I've only been back a little bit. Some people are just built to serve others. And there's other ways to serve people. I don't think I fully appreciated that. But, after I left Willis City, I went and worked for a trucking company for a minute as a mechanic, and man, yeah. Then I got hired full time with the guard for a little bit, and I stopped having stress. Yeah. I'd come. My wife's a nurse, you know, and we'd come home and she's like, "So what'd you do today?" And I'm like, "Well, the boss decided he needed to go to Draper for the day, and you know, so there was that."
That was the highlight for the day.
That was about it. So, yeah, it's like, or, you know, we'd get a. I worked full time as a mechanic for the guard, because that's what I do in the guard, and don't necessarily like mechanicking. So do not call me. I'm not for hire at all. You can't afford my rates. Trust me. The shop down the street will be much cheaper. But, you know, we get a call that, hey, there's some vehicle up in Ogden that needs to be towed. And it's like, perfect. I get out of the shop. I like to play with the wrecker. I'm not going to lie. That's probably the one thing in the guard that I always enjoy is playing with the wrecker. Hands down, that's what I did in Iraq. Was drove a tow truck thousands and thousands of miles, you know, and so. But that was like the highlight. I mean, the most stressful thing I had to do was keep track of my tools, you know.
Yeah.
And there's one other guy in the shop, so pretty easy to figure out whose tools what, you know. I mean,
So do you think there was some part of you that just like, I mean, not necessarily, because it's not like police work is always exciting. I mean, granted, there's excitement involved and things like that periodically, but like, did you just need more to do? Like more, do you know what I mean? Something like more like worthy of your time, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. Like I say, some people are just built to serve others. I mean, I think that's why I picked law enforcement in the first place. It was just a way for me to serve others without, you know, burning to death, or, you know, I don't think I'd do very well in the medical field. Pretty sure. The blood's okay and all that fun stuff. I cannot stand like an ankle pointing the other way. It's like, oh, that's not right. That looks like it really hurts. Dude, you just lay there and wait till the EMTs get here, because, yeah, wow. Whew. But so the medical field it's probably not for me. And
see, I could never imagine, like, I remember when I got fired and then everything afterwards, and sitting there trying to think, like, should I try to go to another agency? Should I try to do this? Should I try to do that? Should I try to stay in law enforcement? And for a while I thought about it. But then it was like more time that passed, I'm like, there's just no fucking way. Like, I have no desire to go back to the environment that you have to live in and exist in order to be a good police officer.
So many people, and we're not just talking like a couple of close friends or whatever. I don't know if you know me. I'm Brad Young. I'm kind of a big deal. A lot of people know me.
Yeah, we've met before.
Yeah. A lot of people. Dude, why did you leave? Dude, why? You need to get back in. I'm like, you were one of the good ones. You know, that asshole Salazar, I'm glad he's gone, but you need to get back in. I mean, there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that. So when I had a plan. I had a pretty good plan, I think. I mean, a good plan executed today or a good plan violently executed today is much better than a great plan executed next week. So, I got my real estate license, and I had a plan. I was still going to be able to retire after 20 years in the Guard, because working as a mechanic, you have to be in the Guard, but you're a civil service tech, and you can't retire till you're 60.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I didn't. No, that was no bueno. So, I had a plan of how this was all going to go. I needed to stay there. I needed to pay off a few things. When I left Willow City, it was amongst a divorce and other things, and it was a bad thing. So, so many people just sat there and kept saying to me, dude, you need to go back. You need to go back. You were one of the good ones. You genuinely help people.
Were they guys that were still still cops, still in law enforcement in one way, shape, or form? Some of them were.
Yeah. Some of them, obviously your mother's always going to be. my dad, it's funny. My dad is not the emotional type or anything like that. But right after, he says, "Oh, thank God. I worry about you every freaking day that you're out there." I'm like, he was the only one that was like, go do something else. I don't care. Just, I'm glad you're not doing. And yeah, a lot of people kept telling me. I thought,
I think it becomes such a, like, I talk to guys now that are still in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can't even like fathom what else they would do, right? And I'm like, well, what do you want to do? Like, if you weren't a cop today and you tomorrow could go do whatever it is that you wanted to do, and they can't even, like, I don't know. I don't even know what I would do. Like, this is what I do. This is what I am. And I think it becomes such a defining characteristic of how you not just define yourself as a person, but kind of your life, right? Your reality, in a sense, is defined by your job as a cop, because it dictates so many different aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like I think it's just super challenging for guys to think, like, what would I do besides this? Because this is just what I do. It's so ingrained in who I am.
I think what I was actually able to pull that away a little bit,
mm-hmm.
because I don't know. I've been in the Guard, like I said, since I was 18. I've been in the Army since I was 18, and I was out for a little bit. But even when you're out of the military, you're still a soldier. You're still a Marine. You're still an airman. You're still a sailor. You know, I don't know about the Coast Guard. Just kidding. I love the Coast Guard. So, I mean, I have veteran buddies. You know, the even though their retirement papers say Department of the Army, you ask them, they're still Marines. I mean, right, Cecil Hawthorne? And so I think I have that, and that sticks with me. So when I did leave and I was out for a little bit from law enforcement, I wasn't a cop. I don't know. I don't think it would be having that experience. I don't think it would be as hard to leave. I think I could find something else to do. And unfortunately, I was forced into that. I was kind of pushed into that position of having to do that, and so I think I can. I don't, and I have a wonderfully supportive wife. So if I told her, "Hey, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna go be a rodeo clown," I think she'd go buy me a red nose. You know, so yeah.
Would you recommend any of your kids to get involved in law enforcement if they came to you and they say, "Hey, I think I want to be a cop"? Would you try to encourage them, or would you try to steer them away from it? Like if we remove the whole caveat of they're adults and they're their own, person, and at the end of the day, you just want to love and support whatever choices they make and blah, 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 all that shit. But like, do you want one of your children to have to go through the experiences that you've gone through in a sense?
No, I don't want,
as a police officer.
No, I do not want straight up. I don't want any of my kids to be cops.
Yeah.
I don't remember, like, between my two oldest, the 20 and 16, I tease them all the time. Hey, when you're 18, man, we'll head down to the recruiter's office. I don't want you in the Army, but I think the Air Force would do you wonders. I tell them that all the time. My 16-year-old gets really mad. I am not joining the Air Force, Dad. Yeah, come on. Your sister didn't. Come on. I thought you were Daddy's girl. Stuff like that. I don't want her to join the military either. She, for the longest time, she didn't have a plan, and now she has a plan. So I want her to stay focused on that. And I'm still going to tease her because I'm dad, and that's what I'm supposed to do. My two boys, they're 14 and 13. And no, I don't want them to be cops. If to a point, I could see my 16-year-old later on wanting to be in law enforcement. And if she did, I would say, you know what, first go get a 4-year degree in criminal justice. And then try to get into law enforcement. You'll have so much debt that you won't be able to afford to. So, just get a minor in criminal justice, but, get an MBA or something. But, yeah. I don't know. Did you take any college classes?
No.
I think everybody, before they even think that they want to be a cop, I think they should have an associate's degree.
Why? Like, what's an associate's going to do in regards to, other than you're going to fucking make more money right out the gate, typically? But,
well, I think as somebody in your 20s, mm-hmm. especially some of the younger ones that are 21, 22, and they start trying to get into it, I think if you have an associate's degree, about the first class or two, when all you do for that whole class is read about case law, and you start understanding that, those few sentences of the Fourth Amendment create volumes of case law, and you have to remember that. It's not like Yeah, they're. I don't know. I think by having an associate's degree, you might understand a little bit more how the law works. And people say, "Man, if somebody's stealing my shit, I just want to shoot him in the back." Oh, well, have you ever heard of this case? Have you ever heard of this case? Did you ever hear about this guy that died on death row because he did that exact same thing? I mean, you can't do that. The courts tell you this. So I think if you go into it with an associate's degree, you'll have a better understanding of the law. And I think a lot of people might actually be deterred.
Yeah.
From doing it.
I think it should be, I don't think you should be able to become a police officer until you're 30 years old, because I think life experience itself is going to aid you in the process of being a cop. Like you think about the guys that are like in their early 20s who are still dumb as a box of rocks, trying to get out there and enforce laws and deal with situations and experiences that they have no conceptual idea of the reality of what, this experience is.
I was 27 and I was dumb.
Yeah.
I would say 25. 25 should be kind of the...
yeah, but even at 25, like I remember myself at 25 and I was like in no way, shape or form could I be a police officer at that point. I think you should have to be 30 and then I think it should be a 10-year career. That's it. So then after 10 years, you get out.
They changed the retirement not too long ago.
Didn't they upped it though, right? To like 25 or something?
So they upped it to 25 and they get like 37.5% at 25. And, they're going to have a couple ex-wives along the way. So, they're going to get like 10%, and, whatever. But
25 years in law enforcement is just asinine.
That's dumb. The 20 years is doable, but they have it's called a hybrid now. And I think everybody in the state of Utah that gets into law enforcement these days should go with the hybrid. There's less that goes into your retirement account and more that goes into a 401k. And I think that's exactly what we should have been doing all along. I mean, if you're going to get rid of the 20-year, because like after 10 years, you get whatever percentage you've earned at 60. And I think from 4 to 10, you get it at 62 or something like that, whatever percentage you earn, which is a good thing. And I'm glad they have that, but I have to wonder if at some point there's a lot of people that stay simply because they have to make it to 20.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that do that. And that's a terrible reason to stay in a job that fucking destroys parts of your soul.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, I remember the first couple dead bodies I went on, and I knew that was going to happen. That's part of being a cop. That right there, that's part of being a cop. There's no
dead bodies.
You're going to, whether you're the rookie or whether you are 30 years into it, dead bodies are a part of it.
I didn't know that going in.
Oh,
that was something I was completely oblivious to.
And I bet sitting right here as we're talking about this, you remember your first dead body.
I do.
I remember mine. I don't want to talk about it because, out of respect for them and everything else. But, and I have some pretty funny stories about dead bodies. I mean, everybody does. It's,
but see, that's
but some people may not find them funny.
Yeah.
Because death isn't funny. It's how you deal with that death. And some of the things, that happen, like, you show up to somebody that passed away or whatever, and you're doing CPR, and maybe, they had a full belly and it come back up, and, there's always the rookie over there, or it could be the veteran, who knows, and just has a gag reflex and he's over there hurling while this guy, that those things happen. And we tend to make light of them because that's how we deal with them.
Yeah, that's the coping mechanism.
Oh, yeah.
In order to move through those experiences.
Boy, there's a lot of coping mechanisms. Yeah, law enforcement stuff. It really is. And, it's not for everybody. But then again, driving a truck isn't for everybody either. So sitting behind the desk isn't for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. I wish it was different. I wish like in the very like utopian way of everything's beautiful and wonderful and the world's full of love, that we didn't need police officers. But obviously we do to some extent and in some way, shape or form. And I just wish the experience of being a cop and the career of law enforcement, I just wish it was different. I wish it didn't have, when I say it's too hard of a job, I mean, the reality is it's just too hard of a job for one person to do.
It is.
And so the extent of everything that a police officer is required to do as a police officer is just too much.
It is.
And so I think it needs to be, you know what I mean? We need to have police officers for this set of issues, and then we need to have something else that we call something else to do this set of issues and all these different things, because like I said, it's just too much for one person to do.
Yeah, it is. I wish I had the answers for it. Some answers that I do think that I have, nobody's going to like those answers. So, people always say, oh, America puts so many people in prison. They put more people in prison than anywhere else in the world. Yeah, because half of them just shoot them. Okay. And yes, we have a lot of, actually, the whole United States has a lot of shootings in a year. Not necessarily police involved. Actually, those are very, very, very minimal. If you look at the statistics, if you got rid of a couple of states, we'd be like bottom of the list for shootings. But we're the freest country in the world. People may not think we're the freest country in the world, but when you've been to a place where, I mean, the rich people, and I mean the top rich people of that area, they have floors. Everybody else walks on dirt. Like, when you've been to an area like that, when you give a kid in Iraq, when you give them an MRE, and you see like 15 kids tearing into it, yeah, they can't eat all that. They'll like be in the hospital and puking for the next, like they'll have diarrhea, and there's no way they can eat all that. They just don't have, that's not their society. I mean, I remember I'd have a bag full of cookies and chips and a case of MREs and a couple cases of water, and I'd grab those at every mission we go on. And you get to the checkpoints. We ran at night, so kid was out. He was a bad guy actually, but you go through these checkpoints and these Iraqis, Iraqi soldiers, Iraqi police, and we just start shoveling stuff out to them, because they don't have anything, and they're going to be on that checkpoint for like a week if they live. And so we give them this. They don't have that. I mean, back at the fob, there's like a mountain of cases of MREs, and this guy's 20 miles off of the fob, and he's starving. And we're on the same, allegedly, we're on the same team. So, yeah, we have so much in this country. We are the freest country. We are the richest country in the world. And the only way we can be a free society and have the freedoms that we do, and have the things that we do, is when people don't conform to our rules, to society's rules. You lock them up. You take them. You take the freedom away. You lock them up, and that's what we have to do. It's not that we're trying to be mean. You just have to abide by society's rules. We are the closest country to anarchy in the world.
You think so?
Yeah. We are the closest to, I should say we're like the closest civilized society that borders on anarchy. And the further we move back from that line of anarchy, the harder it is for our country to operate. That's when our GDP drops. That's when our economy drops. That's when the closer we get to that line of anarchy is the better off the country as a whole is. People have jobs when we're there. People have good times. And it has nothing to do with any political party or anything else. But the closer we are to that line, the better off we are as a country. But we can't go over that line. And that's where the police are there. That's why the police are there. And people say, we got to do something about the prisons. You're right. They are bulging at the seams. Let's build more.
See, I don't think build more is the answer.
I do.
I think we have to change up some of the things that we actually criminalize.
Like what?
Drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's asinine.
We'll get on this one. I'll go with this. There was prominent people in my childhood that they smoked weed.
Mm-hmm.
And that weed moved on to cocaine. And I'm not going to say bad things happened in their life at that point, but nothing advanced in their life either. It wasn't until there was actually a drug bust, and this is back in the 80s. There was actually a drug bust, and a bunch of people went to jail, and this prominent person in my life wasn't a part of it, and they lucked out. And that's when they're like, okay, maybe I need to stop doing this. You know, that was their wake-up call. These were people that worked at Tooele Army Depot, and they had good jobs, and they were veterans, and they had benefits, and they, all these things. And then when you don't show up for work because you're sitting in jail, you lose your job, and they're not going to hire you back at the depot. And back in the 80s, that was it.
Yeah.
So this person stopped doing that. I'm not going to say they stopped smoking weed, but bad things happen to you. And
see,
should drugs be? I think there still needs to be a criminal element to drug possession. However, what society's done is made cops be like, "Hey, this is your problem." Yeah, no, it is a public have problem.
I think it is too.
But
I don't think drugs are the cause of it.
You are not gonna have somebody quit. You're not gonna force someone to quit doing drugs. They have to want to.
Mm-hmm.
Just like somebody that smokes, they have to want to. Somebody that's an alcoholic, they have to want to. I don't care what you do. You can take away all the alcohol and access to alcohol. They're going to be throwing bread and fruit and anything else in a toilet and trying to suck it through their teeth. That's just that's the way it goes. I mean, if somebody's addicted, they're going to want to feed that addiction. I don't think we have enough. I don't think we have enough mental health workers in this country.
See, that's what it boils down to for me, because I think that drugs aren't the problem. Addiction is the issue. And you can be addicted to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And addiction is a coping mechanism for something that you can't deal with.
Right.
And typically it's childhood trauma. Typically it's, it's any number of different things, right? It's not just childhood trauma, but it comes back to mental health. How many guys have you arrested that were addicts, right?
Mm-hmm.
That were either slinging dope or they had, the little baggie in their pocket, or the guy that was out cruising around breaking into cars at night is just trying to feed his habit. And he's addicted to whatever he's using, whether it's meth, heroin, or, whatever the case is. But it's really just a coping mechanism for the fact that his life is fucking shit. It's miserable. And he's depressed and he's sad and he's full of anxiety and God knows what other kind of issues he struggles with.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just simply the coping mechanism. And so I don't think drugs are the issue. I think addiction and the mental health is the issue that needs to be addressed. And in
Yeah.
my mind, if we just legalize those so that we no longer have to worry about criminalizing people for an addiction issue, then we can siphon all the money from legal pot sales or legal heroin sales or whatever we want to legalize into funding and building up the base for mental health in the country, so that it's no longer a stigma attached to it, so that it's no longer difficult to get help, so that it's really, really, really fucking easy to go talk to somebody at some point in your life.
I agree with part of that. How much do we have to compromise our values of society before we stop and say, no, we're done. We're done. And I'm not saying that a lot of things that we've compromised our values on a lot of things, but it seems to a point we kind of have. I mean, I won't get into whether I agree with legalized marijuana or not. I think more research needs to be done with marijuana. Heroin? No, I'm not gonna, I can't buy off on heroin. I did CPR on a 4-year-old who got into mommy's methadone because mommy used to put it in a jug, and he got into it and overdosed. But I can't buy off on that one. I've never done CPR on anyone that's ever overdosed on marijuana. So we could have a conversation about that one, but other than that, I yeah.
Well, it's a hard pill to swallow, right?
Oh,
because
boy, it's a hard pill to swallow.
Marijuana, is becoming more and more accepted, and like you said, like you can't technically overdose on marijuana. Like we never had. You definitely have people tripping balls on it.
Well, I've never seen anyone overdose on marijuana. I've never had to deal with anyone.
Yeah.
However, the marijuana of the 70s is not the marijuana of today. There's
a big difference between it now.
Big difference. I mean, so I think before we start legalizing marijuana, though, we need to figure a few things out, because nobody independently does research.
Yeah, they do. There's plenty of independent researches, studies and things like that.
By who?
I don't know them off the top of my head.
So by the biggest reason we have universities doing research is because they're more independent. They really don't care if they prove it or not,
Look at what legal weed did for Colorado. Like DUIs dropped.
Yeah, because their laws changed.
Their laws changed in what way?
Well, now it's legal. But how much marijuana can be in your system before
you're impaired when you're driving?
Yeah. How much?
It's different for everybody, right?
No.
Well, I could smoke a joint and I could be safe to drive and I wouldn't be impaired.
Are you sure?
I don't. It depends on
because there's no
on a
research,
ton of different factors.
Because there's no research to say what is and what isn't. I mean, there's plenty of research. And one thing, went to this training not too long ago, and one of the things they talked about was, BAC is not, you can't compare alcohol and marijuana. They're two different substances. You cannot compare those. There's volumes. I mean, there's a book of just DUI stuff.
I remember.
There's a book. We're not talking.
Yeah, it's not a pamphlet.
No, it's not a pamphlet. And we're talking a book for cops.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine what the lawyers have? I mean, remind me of that issue, because that's another issue I want to hit on. as to why somebody shouldn't at least have an associate's degree. But since we're on marijuana, there just needs to be some more research so we know exactly where our lines are and where they're not, and what exactly is the good. Because did you know that there's good fats and there's bad fats?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there was bad fats. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's like, "Oh, red meat's bad for you." I know, but it's delicious. So that's the way.
So what if it's the same thing with marijuana, where it's always been demonized in a sense, and, you know, in the way that it's not healthy for you and it's not beneficial and it's going to fuck up your life and it's a gateway drug? And what if that's all the old information that we were fed over the years, when in reality, it's the complete opposite? It's a good fat. It's a good fat that we all should be taking, and it's a good fat that we should all be incorporating
there's
into
like
our life.
480 some odd substances in marijuana, in a marijuana leaf. And some of those substances are good substances, and some of those are the bad substances. Which one's which, though? Big thing is, what is it, CBD oil?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, which is an extract from marijuana, and it's legal everywhere. I've heard of older people that it's helped with joints. They don't hurt as much. They, you know, drop a few drops in their coffee in the morning, and they drink it. And I know somebody has been putting a few drops for their dog, and their dog actually doesn't like get up and creak and hurt every time he gets up. And there's research being done with this because it is that legalized substance that they can do research with. So, I think that's a great thing. I think you're probably going to find out later on CBD oil is that substance in marijuana that is actually going to have those properties of helping and healing.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think we should restrict stuff like that. However, if you're high, don't drive. And people drive. That's the problem.
Yeah, but people drive, you know, regardless.
They drive drunk.
They drive drunk, on pills, like totally legal substances. People are still out driving and fucking up.
They are.
And so,
and it's like,
drugs have nothing to do with that. Marijuana has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the personal, you know, choice of that person.
But you can true. And that's why I think there needs to be more studies as to at what level are you impaired to drive. So, yeah. I mean, it's one thing to say, hey, let's legalize this stuff. And, you know, to a point, yeah, let's stop putting drug users in prison. However, when drug users break into your house and they steal your shit, then let's put them in prison, because that's burglary.
Yes. For me, the root cause is it's not the drug. It's
right.
Not, do you know what I mean? The person that's going to go to that place in their head where they think that, oh, wait, maybe, you know, because undoubtedly they know it's a bad idea. Undoubtedly, they know it's not safe, and they're going to risk getting caught and things like that. But there's something in their head that still forces them through with those decisions and those actions.
Very true.
That's the fucked up part that needs to be fixed and addressed.
And that's why we don't have enough mental health workers in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever looked into what it takes to be a counselor?
No.
If I wasn't so far into my master's in criminal justice, I would drop that. And I would have, I would have picked up a psychologist to be a psychologist. Problem is, do you like school?
No.
But is there something you can do to help somebody deal with issues?
Absolutely.
So what do you need? What do you need to be able to help somebody?
I don't need anything. Like, I just need to show up. But society won't. Do you know what I mean? It's society that says you need this, that, or the other.
Actually, I don't know about that. I don't know about. So I just did this crisis intervention class, and back in the 60s and 70s, they were trying to bring in more people that were not necessarily. Actually, it dated back further than that. I'd have to get the textbook at home to tell you exactly, but you don't have to be a mental health professional to help somebody. Like, you and I have experience helping people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a psychology degree. Do you?
No.
But yet, as cops, I'm required to help people. I'm supposed to help people in crisis. I'm supposed to help. I mean, cops aren't prepared for that. They're not. They don't have that. There's some training, but they actually can be prepared for it. They can help. They can do those things. If you and I wanted to open up shop and call it, Craig and Brad's place of mental health helping, whatever. Okay.
We got to come up with a better name.
Why not? That's pretty straightforward. Yeah. I mean, anyhow. So why can't we? Why can't you and I open up shop and help people that are in crisis? Why can't we be? Why can't we? No, I'm not asking to prescribe meds. I'm not asking. All I want to do is sit down, have discussions with people, because I think people will open up more one-on-one than they necessarily always do in groups. Mm-hmm. Groups are good. I'm not going to say they're not. But one-on-one helps. And I don't want to take anything away from a psychologist that went to school for all those years and they have licenses and everything else. But I think there needs to be a bridge in between there.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be something, somebody with a professional or advanced education of some sort, but maybe not all the way up to a master's, to where they can actually help people. And they're not going to get shut down by the state, and they don't, I don't know. Sure, let's go have a license. Let's go pay some money to the state, whatever. But at the end of the day, there's people out there that want to help people, but they can't because, or for whatever circumstances, they're not going to get a master's degree in psychology to help somebody. So, I don't know. But if you're going to deal with that drug addiction issue, some things got to change.
Yeah, I agree. Like on a massive level.
If you're going to legalize substances, then we have to have the answers as to when can people drive when they're, what point can somebody drive? If you smoke a dope or if you smoke a joint, can you drive 2 hours later, an hour later? Can you drive right away with just one joint? However, the THC level in this strain is going to be different than this one. So at what level, we have to have those answers before we do all that stuff.
But it's the same thing as alcohol, where you drink 4 beers and I drink 4 beers. You might be more impaired or I might be more impaired.
Right.
And our blood alcohol level might be, do you know what I mean? At 4 beers, mine might be over the legal limit and yours won't. All of these different variables and factors.
True.
So we just have to come up with a set standard.
There's volumes as to what that is. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know how alcohol is metabolized. We know what parts of the body it affects. We know.
Yeah, we know all that about drugs too.
Not really.
All those studies have been done. I think it's no different than alcohol. We just come up with a set standard of if you have this level of, do you know what I mean? Because think about it. Like I could be shit-faced, completely hammered, and I could drive drunk and everything would be fine. It's not until it becomes an issue that typically police officers get involved. Granted, you have the random traffic stop where you smell the odor and everything like that and you run through tests. But it's the same thing with any other substance where there's plenty of people that are driving around completely fucked up on prescription pills. And typically, you know, even in a regular routine traffic stop, you might not pick that up. It's going to be at some point where it becomes an issue and becomes a problem. So I think it's the same thing with illegal substances at this point, where there's just a standard where you can have this amount in your system, and it just has to be a set standard because it's going to affect everybody different. And then if there's an issue, if you pull them over, if they're, you know what I mean, they get called in or something like that, then it's addressed at that point. But I mean,
but again, the problem is we don't know exactly where that standard is. In this training, one of the guys that was presenting, he was from Washington State. He's over Department of Transportation or something like that. Anyhow, and in Washington, they have, I can't remember what it's like 0.5 some nano somethings, which is a small, you know, something measured in the blood.
Yeah.
And they got that from Europe. Like when they put that together, they found that actually it was the lobby that was pushing for legalized marijuana. They got that number from Europe. However, there are two different types of blood draws. Here in the U.S., we do one type of blood draw, which is a direct draw. There, I guess they mix it. They get like X amount, and they mix it with whatever to dilute it or whatever. So in Washington, they're driving around with like twice the amount of impairment that they are in Europe. So lawmakers have to understand what it is they're enacting.
Yeah.
And I just think we need to have more.
Well, definitely
I think
way more that needs to take place.
Well, you know, I hate to say it this way because each state is their own entity, their own thing. But until the feds legalize this, man, we're not getting any. We're not going to get to that point until the feds legalize it.
I think we'll get there with marijuana.
I think we will too. I don't know when. And fortunately, it's still illegal in Utah right now. That's going to change. And we'll roll with the punches and go from there.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the mental health workers, though. And hopefully this will kind of tie in that whole, what I was going to point out earlier. So you can have a high school diploma and go out and you can be a cop. And yes, you have training, and every year we have training and we have lots of training. There's a difference between training and education. So we go out and we investigate crimes and everything else. And police work is more complicated now than it was when I got in. And I'm sure when I was a rookie, it was more complicated than when my sergeant was a rookie.
Yeah.
And it evolves like that. But the standards really stayed the same over all those years. We do have better quality training. I will say that. The quality of training has increased too. But so we go and we investigate crimes and everything else. But then we go into court and you have cops that are going up against, I shouldn't say they're going up against, you have people with, 7-8 years of schooling who've done nothing but talk about case law for 8 years, 7 years. And you're going, there's that adversarial thing in court. And things change. Things change a lot in the legal profession. A lot. So, yeah, I think having a little bit of a little bit more education for officers, I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Like we were just talking about, as cops, we show up when people are in crisis. I did that crisis intervention class, and that's what it was about. It's about cops interacting with people in crisis, and cops are the ones that are supposed to be there, but do they necessarily have the education to do it?
Well, even just the skill set. Like, it's not you could sit through a training like that and walk away and still not be able to handle yourself in a crisis, environment where something is really, really fucking happening.
I think most of us deal pretty well with people in crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know exactly where it's going, but we already send people that don't have a master's degree to deal with people in crisis. So why can't people that don't have a master's degree, why can't they open up shop and help people that are in crisis?
Yeah.
Why can't, like I said, Brad and Craig's Magic Mental Love Shop. I don't know. But
I like it right there. That's perfect.
But, why can't people help people in crisis?
Yeah.
And
I think we can, Brad. I think that's,
unfortunately, we're a capitalist society. So guess what? The mortgage has to get paid.
Yeah.
But you have to have a professional license to do that. And it's not there.
Yeah.
So why can't we?
I think we can.
If we're gonna treat the root cause of the problem, then we need more people to treat the root cause.
Yeah. But
I'm already doing a lot of schooling, man. I'm not going back to get a psychology degree. So,
well, that's why I start all these interviews now talking about mental health, just simply as a way to spark somebody's mind out there. Somebody that's listening, get them to think about it in a different way, get them to accept it within themselves, maybe open up a dialogue and a conversation with the people around them.
Right.
And that's the whole purpose of really everything I do with the podcast, is just to get people thinking about things in a different way.
I would love nothing more than to be that guy to help out veterans.
Yeah.
I mean, and yeah, there's ways you can do it, and maybe that's a cop out for me, but I don't know. I just think people should be able to. It's been done before in the past, just like marijuana was legalized once before. Somewhere it has evolved to where we can't do that, like as whatever. And maybe I just haven't looked at it enough, or whatever. But
yeah, people helping people. That's all we need in the end.
Because as a cop, have I dealt with people in crisis enough? I think so. Let's let people help people in crisis.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, if somebody opened up shop without a license, they'd go to jail just like the guy that was smoking marijuana will too. So, yeah.
Okay, man, let's go take a smoke break.
All right, let's do that.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
It's, what the fuck was it? It's Police Appreciation Week. And you said it's Military Month?
Maybe, yeah. It's Police Appreciation Week, Military Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
And,
go hug a cop.
go hug a cop and
see how that works for you.
Yeah. Don't go hug a cop.
No.
But if you want to show a veteran your boobs, feel free. So there's that. Actually, I have a funny story about that. I won't share it now because some people may not think it's that funny, but I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, man.
All
right.
I
appreciate it.
Thanks, man. You could put bright, happy colors on the side of police cars, and instead of a siren, play some happy music to get them to pull over, and they'll still be upset. We are the closest country to anarchy in the world. I think that's why I picked law enforcement in the first place. It was just a way for me to serve. Keep your hands to yourself. Don't take other people's shit. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Brad and Craig's Magic Mental Love Shop. I don't know.